Hi, my name is Sophie Geil, and for Scenario this year I researched climate change and the climate crisis.
What is climate change? Okay, so first of all, what's the climate? What's the definition of the climate? The climate is essentially long-term weather patterns or average conditions. So climate change is fluctuations in these patterns, shifts in conditions, shifts in temperatures, etc. And the majority of this is due to the burning of fossil fuels. Fossil fuels. So fossil fuels include coal, oil, gasoline, just to name a few. And when they're burned, carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases are released into the atmosphere. And this causes something called the greenhouse effect. So carbon dioxide and these other gases have the property of trapping heat. So when they're released, heat is trapped near the surface of the earth. And this is something that does occur naturally because these gases occur naturally, but because of so much human activity, the balance is definitely thrown off. Coral bleaching. So this is an effect of climate change that I wanted to talk a little bit about. Oceans actually absorb much of the heat and carbon dioxide that's put out into the atmosphere, and because of this, they have started to become acidic. And because of the acidity, corals are dying and entire reefs are dying. It's kind of like a fever response in a human. That's kind of the way that you can think about it. The corals notice that something's wrong. They notice that something's not right in the environment that they're in, and they shut down because of that. They stop eating, they stop reproducing, they stop doing anything. They turn white as a result of shutting down, and eventually they die. It's kind of like a stress response to changes in their environment. So you may be thinking, okay, why does this matter? Like, what does this have to do with me? Why should I care about this? Well, 25% of the ocean's oceanic life relies on reefs. And further, approximately 1 billion people rely on the fish that reefs bring as their main source of protein. So if reefs are dying, approximately 1 billion people are losing their main source of protein and could potentially end up being malnourished. I wanted to talk about this event specifically because learning about it is kind of what made me realize that well, number one, everything in nature is very much so connected. And number two, that seemingly small issues can have a really, really large impact and a very bad impact. Because, coral bleaching doesn't really sound like something too crazy. It doesn't really sound like some huge event, but it has a pretty bad impact on a lot of the ocean and a lot of people. And that's just something to keep in mind when you're learning about this issue in general. The extinctions. So I wanted to talk about this just to give a little bit of context for what I'm going to be talking about in the next slide. So there have been 5 mass extinctions in the entire history of the Earth, with the most recent being the extinction that wiped out the dinosaurs. And a common factor that scientists noticed in all of the extinctions was really high levels of carbon. So it would take about 1 million years or several million years to pull up enough carbon from the Earth for any catastrophic event to take place. But because of human activity, we have managed to reach those high levels of carbon in approximately 200 years. So after the extinction of the dinosaurs, we entered a period of geological stability known as the Holocene. And unfortunately, if we continue down the path that we're going currently, we are going to end up losing this stability and end up exiting the Holocene and entering the 6th mass extinction. What may occur? So this is what could potentially happen if, like I said, if we continue on the path that we're going down. So ice in the Arctic will disappear in the spring and summer. There will be no ice. Frozen soils in Arctic regions will thaw, releasing methane, which is a greenhouse gas many, many times more potent than carbon dioxide, and this will speed up the process even further. Reefs will die and are dying, like I said previously. Global food production will enter a crisis due to the overuse of soils. Pollinating insects will die. The weather will become even more unpredictable than it already is. The oceans will rise even more than they already are. The planet's temperature will continue to increase. places will become completely uninhabitable on the earth, and millions and millions of people could potentially end up homeless. So basically, if we continue at the rate that we're currently going, there will eventually be a sixth mass extinction at the doorstep. But luckily, we do have a lot of potential solutions and a lot of ideas that scientists have come up with. I'm not going to be talking about all of them because, you know, I don't have the time for that, but I will be mentioning a few well-known and broad potential solutions. So renewable energy, this would be really, really beneficial for the environment. It would dramatically reduce the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, reducing deforestation and reducing the amount of land cleared for farming. So trees absorb carbon dioxide, so when they are cut down, they release it, and they also, as we know, release oxygen, so they're very, very important. So reducing the amount of trees that we cut down is very important. Overfishing. A really critical part of having a healthy earth is having a healthy ocean, and overfishing is definitely an issue when it comes to that. So having no fish zones would be really helpful. And replanting trees. Having diverse forests is really, really important to the overall health of the earth. So some personal solutions that we can all kind of try to take part in are reducing the amount of meat we eat. We can try to reduce our carbon footprint, keep recycling, trying not to use plastic, to trying to stay environmentally conscious with the products that we use, and things like that. Although it does not fall on the individual to stop climate change. That's important to mention. Okay, so before I go, I wanted to recommend some books and some documentaries that I've been watching and reading just for a bit of extra information, because I can't unfortunately fit everything, every aspect of climate change into this PowerPoint and presentation, because it's a really, really complex issue, and it's good to get as much information on it as possible. So two books that I've been reading are The Fragile Earth, writing from the New Yorker on climate change, and A Life on Our Planet by David Attenborough. Some documentaries that I would recommend would be A Life on Our Planet by David Attenborough. I would recommend Before the Flood, and also the documentary Chasing Corals. My sources and citations and all of that are going to be in the comments, and thank you so much for watching.